and he is a leading candidate for the FBI director, allegedly, which is quite interesting. It was down to about 4 candidates, and, well, let's just get into this CNN article, because I'm sure you guys will love that. But I like to use sources from all ends, and I've seen this reported over and over, so many different sources, so it seems to be legit, but we'll see what happens. I don't think this is a done deal. I'll be getting into that a little bit, but I do believe that Joe Lieberman is leading. So the name of the article is Trump Says Joe Lieberman One of His Top Picks for FBI Job.
We have just found out here at CNN, this is according to sources, this is a senior administration official and 2 other sources telling CNN that former Senator and vice presidential candidate Joe Lieberman is now leading the candidates to become the next FBI director. We know that the president has met with him, and we're told it's close. The source has the impression it is, quote, highly likely this is close to being a done deal. Abby Phillip is with me, CNN political analyst. Abby Phillip there at the Washington Post
has to say.
You surprised?
Well, not entirely. I mean, I think for a president who's looking for someone who might be agreeable.
Now, isn't that just funny? For as much as the Washington Post and these other media outlets harp on Trump and say how terrible he is, they're not actually surprised that he chose a candidate that is in the middle. So I think, in the back rooms when they're not out in public, I think these reporters are coming to grips with the fact that Trump isn't completely partisan. He is actually a reasonable person. He has a history of picking down the middle. With something like Supreme Court justice, it would be a slap in the face to most of his voters to not go conservative there. But with most appointees, he considers he considers candidates on the left and the right, or down the middle. And so, there's recently Sheriff Clark from Milwaukee is actually a Democrat. People don't realize that. He's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he was on the campaign trail. And, he's a minority person of color. He's that, for someone who's supposedly so racist in Trump, kind of interesting that Trump went with a Democrat black man to lead, to be involved with the NHS. I mean, so maybe Trump's not so racist after all. Maybe the mainstream media was fake news, and maybe the mainstream media was wrong yet again. And so I think the mainstream media understands that what they're doing is bullshit for the most part, but they still have to do it because they feel they're under attack and their jobs depend on it.
To both sides, and who might allow them to escape some of these questions about whether the person that they put at the head of the FBI is going to be independent enough. Joe Lieberman is a decent choice. I mean, I say decent only because the thing about Joe Lieberman is that while he is a Democrat, he's been sort of separated from the Democratic Party for quite some time, and doesn't have much connection to the current Democratic Party as it stands. So it's a little unclear how Democrats are going to respond to this. I think Republicans might find him to be a perfectly acceptable choice for that position. It doesn't open up any problems with seats in the House or in the Senate. So in that respect, a lot of Republicans will be breathing some sighs of relief. But I can see why they are going going down this road, because Lieberman is someone who they can present as a potential bipartisan choice.
Well, yeah, it's not just that they can potentially present him. He is actually
Well, I spoke with
a bipartisan choice. Like, he's not a partisan choice at all. So, and to actually show that a bit, if you go to Joe Lieberman's Wikipedia page, it says, for the 2016 election, on August 10th, 2016, Lieberman endorsed Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton in the 2016 presidential election. So the FBI director could very well be a Hillary Clinton supporter, but Trump holds true to his word. He wants the best people in the positions. He's not picking based on partisanship. So it matches perfectly with what Trump said on the campaign trail. And now if you go down here, it says Lieberman is one of the Senate's leading opponent. Lieberman describes himself as being genuinely an independent, saying, I agree more often than not with Democrats on domestic policy. I agree more often than not with Republicans on foreign and defense policy. And that's actually, honestly, what Trump largely is. Trump, he's more Republican when it comes to foreign and defense policy. But if you look at his domestic policy, things like healthcare access for all, that's like a moderate Democrat policy. When he has, an infrastructure bill, that is a Democratic policy. So, I think Lieberman actually agrees a lot with what Trump feels or thinks. And Lieberman, he doesn't have. He's going to get attacked for not having direct experience as a prosecutor. But I think that's fine. The FBI director doesn't need to have experience in prosecutions, in my opinion. And he's got all of these, he was the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, the 21st Attorney General of Connecticut. He was a senator for a long time. He's like 75 now. He's very experienced. So I think that the Lieberman can get the job done just fine. He used to be a Democrat. Then he was turned into an independent. He caucused with the Democrats a lot of times. So, he has also helped John McCain. So it's kind of funny because a lot of Trump's political opponents are considered to be John McCain and Hillary Clinton. Lieberman has connections to both of those. And he's yet being considered a top choice for FBI director. So I think it is a little bit of a surprise if Lieberman is actually chosen. At the same time, I do think it falls in line with what he said. So on the campaign trail, and he does fall in line with a lot of what Trump thinks and how Trump thinks. But anyways, another thing is, I think Trump understands that right now Congress is really polarized, and there's not much Trump can do other than try to, if he appoints an FBI director that is in the middle, it can help bring Congress together, hopefully. So, and maybe Lieberman can kind of talk to both sides of Congress and be like, hey, let's get on to some serious stuff and stop all these political witch hunts. even though I think Hillary Clinton did a lot wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if they just let it go. Just for the sake of the country, for the sake of getting stuff done. But, that might also be up to the Democrats. Do they want to continue to go after Flynn and Trump? And if so, then maybe, Trump and the FBI and others go after Hillary Clinton. So there's a little political game there that can be played. But it says former Senator Joe Lieberman is one of President Donald Trump's top picks to be nominated as FBI director, Trump said Thursday. Speaking to reporters while meeting with Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos, Trump said he is very close to choosing a new FBI director to replace James Comey. And asked if Lieberman, the Democrat-turned-independent senator from Connecticut, was a top candidate, Trump said yes. Well, we knew he was one of the top 4. Trump met with... and I also agree that he is close. He's not just saying that because he does need to get somebody in there rather quickly, and he's promised to get somebody into the FBI director rather quickly. In the acting FBI director, I don't think he's really good for Trump to be acting as such. It would be much better for Trump, in my opinion, to appoint someone. Because the acting FBI director has a lot of ties to Hillary Clinton, and not in the Joe Lieberman sort of way, in the money-making sort of way. But it says Trump met with Lieberman Wednesday and found him agreeable, a source said. Trump and that's, I mentioned that earlier, they agree on a lot of issues. They think alike. Trump and Attorney General Jeff Sessions have been interviewing candidates to lead the bureau since Trump's suddenly fired Comey last week, only a few years into what was created to be up to a 10-year term. But there's no surprise in firing an FBI director. Like, that happens all the time. It's common for FBI directors not to act out 10 years. It is, people don't realize the FBI director is a political position. It's, it's not like an a strictly legal, sort of, position or anything like that. It's completely political. The circumstances surrounding the firing have made the appointment closely watched, with senators calling for an unimpeachable, nonpartisan appointment. I think Lieberman offers that. The firing drew instant criticism, and also I want to add in, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of deal going on where maybe some Democrats have promised to work with Trump and the Republicans if the FBI director is a reasonable choice that's palatable to the Democrats. I'd be a little surprised if Trump just nominated Lieberman and, didn't get any sort of assurances or promises behind the scenes from any Democrats, but because I think he could easily get some. But the firing drew instant criticism from both sides of the aisle, as Comey was overseeing the investigation into Russia's meddling in the 2016 U.S. election and any possible links between the Trump camp and Russia during the campaign. Fake news. Both sides of the aisle really are happy about Comey being fired. The Democrats are acting outraged politically, but the Republicans were unhappy about how Comey, didn't do a good job with the Hillary Clinton investigation, and then went after Flynn and Trump with all this Russia stuff while lacking evidence. And there's a lot of issues with how he, if you actually listen to his comments on all the Sally Yates stuff and how they gave immunity to a lot of these people that, allegedly didn't do anything wrong, but then why they ask for immunity, and Comey really didn't do a good job investigating, or the FBI didn't do a good job investigating with some of these leads. At least from what Comey himself is saying. Maybe he's not saying the whole truth. Maybe he's kind of hiding some of it, but I'd encourage you to actually go listen to what Comey has said in some of these hearings. While Trump's team initially claimed that firing came after a review by a deputy. By the way, what Trump said today during the press conference with the Colombian president is that he thought the firing of Comey would actually have bipartisan support, and that not that the Democrats would be outraged about it. And I agree with him. Just a couple months ago, they were so upset about how he said, how he made comments about during the campaign about how Hillary Clinton did actually do things wrong, but that she shouldn't be prosecuted. While Trump's team initially claimed that the firing came after a review by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, laid out in a memo that largely faulted Comey on his handling of the investigation into a private email server of Hillary Clinton, it's not just the private email server, by the way. Trump later said in an interview he had already decided to fire Comey and cited the Russia investigation as being at the top of mind. Russia came well after, so this is a bunch of fake news. Because their whole timeline, order of events is wrong. And they're trying to pin it on one thing, but it's really the culmination of mishandling multiple investigations, and where multiple sides disagreed with Comey. That's what got Comey into trouble. And really, Trump didn't he called Comey a rock star, I think it was, or maybe not a rock star. Basically, someone who wanted to be the center of attention all the time, and that's not really what you want an FBI director to be. Or what Trump wants an FBI director to be. So after the firing, Rosenstein announced he would appoint a special counsel to oversee the investigation. His decision because Sessions recused himself from it. Rosenstein only informed the White House of his decision to bring on former FBI Director Robert Mueller after the order was signed and less than an hour before it was announced publicly. The naming of the special counsel has appeased some Democrats who were threatening to try to block any FBI director until such a move was made. But the appointment does not assuage all concerns, and an FBI director would still play a major role as things move forward. Already, one red state Democrat, who would be a top target for Republicans to support a candidate, stated that she would not be pleased with Lieberman as a pick. It's a mistake to nominate anyone who's ever run for office, Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill told reporters. I'm somebody who spent a lot of time in law enforcement. That is a moment where we need a law enforcement professional that's never campaigned for a presidential campaign, never campaigned for office, never worn a party label to head the FBI. The only party label he's ever had was Democrat, and he eventually turned that to independent. It's kind of funny. And so this just shows you Claire McCaskill is a Democrat, and she's pure establishment. She's already gearing up for no matter who the pick was going to be. If you're not on board with Lieberman, you're not on board with anybody as a Democrat. That's about as friendly as Trump could make it for you. And you're already obstructing. All McCaskill's going to do is obstruct. Lieberman was Democrat Al Gore's vice presidential nominee in 2000 and unsuccessfully ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2004. But Lieberman, 75, is not necessarily popular with the Democrats. It just talks about how he lost to a Democrat in a primary and then changed to independent, and he won the seat in the end. And some Democrats like Howard Dean said he disrespected the Democratic Party by running as an independent after losing the Democratic primary. Other candidates considered including current acting director Andrew McCabe, former Oklahoma governor, and FBI agent Frank Keating, career FBI official Richard McFeely, and Texas Senator John Cornyn and New York Judge Michael Garcia, who both withdrew their names. Usually people who withdraw their names are people who weren't going to be selected, and they withdraw after they pretty much know they're not going to be selected. It says here, apparently, when Cornyn was under consideration, even his GOP colleagues questioned whether he would be the right choice as an elected official. That could be true. Sometimes candidates will, or presidents, will throw out names to give them some recognition. Is basically a thank you. Try to benefit their career, even though they're not really in a position to take the job. And there's, because you say you're considering between 3 actual candidates, and you throw in a 4th and maybe a 5th, just because you can get some recognition to the 4th and 5th people, even though you're not going to choose them. Lieberman's closest law enforcement experience is serving as a state's attorney general. I mentioned that, an elected position. Sure, it's elected, but it's pretty good and pretty close experience in law enforcement. So, that's what Jeff Sessions is doing. Sorry, I can't talk. FBI directors, except he's doing Jeff Sessions is doing it on the federal level. FBI directors traditionally have had prosecutorial experience, either as an FBI agent or as a member of the Justice Department. Well, the state Justice Department, basically. So this is really splitting hairs. Lieberman was born in Stamford, Connecticut, educated at Yale and Yale Law School, and served in the Connecticut State Senate and as Attorney General of the state before being elected as a state senator in Washington. Lieberman is well-educated and well-experienced. So, first elected in 1988, Lieberman served as a Democrat until 2006, when he became an independent who caucused with the Democrats. He did not seek re-election. I guess they're also mentioning that he's Jewish. So, and the former senator was known to buck his party even before endorsing McCain. Lieberman was the first Democratic senator to criticize former President Bill Clinton publicly during the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Lieberman is a devout follower of Orthodox Judaism. So, that extremely racist, xenophobic, homophobic, every other bigotry name you can come up with, that was Donald Trump during the campaign from the mainstream media. Now he's, got a Hillary Clinton supporting Jew nominated to be potentially going to be nominated as FBI director. Give me a break. He's not a racist. He's not a sexist. He's not anti-Jew. His children are Jewish. His grandchildren are Jewish. He's got Jewish advisors. He has put women in positions of power. He's put, racially, he's been perfectly willing to hire many races. So all of that about Trump being racist and just bigoted in general, take it with a grain of salt. And don't have such a short memory that CNN wants you to have. Remember what CNN said during the campaign, and you could just see how their narratives changed, how nothing they said in the campaign has come true, and they said Trump was such a war hawk. Trump hasn't started any wars. He made one missile attack on Syria, and that's what everybody fell in love with him for. And it wasn't even like a serious missile attack. It was more of a threat than anything. It wasn't meant to do serious damage. So anyways, that's that. I am perfectly okay with Lieberman. I don't think it's it's not something. Lieberman's not a guy I'm drooling over, and yet I'm perfectly happy. A lot of times I feel if you're drooling over someone, you really like someone that badly, though, maybe they really aren't the best person for the job, because maybe they agree with you too much, where then the opponents are gonna feel like the people who disagree with you are gonna feel disenfranchised. And so if you agree mostly with someone, and then maybe there's someone you liked more or something, but he's more agreeable to the other side, then that can be a positive thing. I know a lot of people wanted someone like Trey Gowdy, and I wouldn't mind that, but that's someone the Democrats would definitely not like, and that's going to feel completely partisan. And the other thing is, Lieberman, if you notice, Trump chose a few candidates that were older, where you can't really destroy Lieberman. There's nothing left to destroy. He's at the end of his career. I think age might have worked in his favor here. Although, this isn't a done deal yet, but if it does turn out to be Lieberman, I think that Trump might like his age, and not just because of the experience that comes with it, but the fact that it makes him untouchable to an extent. If you destroy a 40-year-old person's career, that's 30 years of their career, say till they're 70, or 40 years till they're 80, that they lost out on. But if you're already 75, say you were going to work till you were 80, well, you only lost 5 years. So there's not really that much they can threaten you with. So those are just some things to think about. I'm going to end the video here. I think a lot of people will feel as I do, where it's not like, it's not the biggest or the best pick. It's not the number one pick for a lot of people, but it's not like a terrible pick for anybody, and that might actually make it the best pick for everybody. Have a good day, guys.